Welcome back. So, what I've been noticing lately is that life rarely changes all at once. Most of the time, it changes so quietly that we don't even notice it's happening. One day, something is simply part of your life, part of your everyday life, and then without realizing it, it's gone. It's not there anymore. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately because the other day I noticed one of those little shades that parents stick to the back of windows of the car to keep the sun out of a baby's eyes. And I smiled at it because I remembered having those years ago when my kids were super little. And then I realized I don't remember the last time we used them, right? There wasn't a final car ride. There wasn't this big announcement. There was no moment where I thought, well, I guess we won't need these anymore. One day we did, and then one day we didn't. And it made me realize how many transitions in life happen exactly like that. We leave seasons very quietly. And I think we imagine life changing through big milestones, graduations, new jobs, moving, retirement. But so much of life changes really quietly. A child becomes more independent, a friendship changes, parents get older, a routine that you've had for years just slowly disappears. We don't notice we're leaving one season while we're living it. It's only later that we realize we've already crossed into another one. And it feels hard. Change feels so hard. And lately, I've noticed myself really wanting to hold on, not because anything is wrong, but because someone I love needs me differently than they used to. And if I'm honest, I like being needed. I like helping. I like fixing things. I like making life a little easier for the people that I love. But love changes, relationships change. And if we're willing to let them, they ask something new of us. Sometimes they ask us to step back instead of stepping in, to listen instead of trying to fix, to trust instead of control. And there's a Buddhist story that I come back to often, and it's about these hunters. And these hunters, they would hollow out a coconut and they'd put a piece of fruit inside and they leave just enough room for a monkey to slip its hands in. And the monkey would grab the fruit and, try to then pull it back out, but it couldn't pull it back out because it was stuck. So the monkey wasn't necessarily trapped by the coconut, it was trapped because it couldn't let go of the piece of fruit. And I've always loved this story because I think it says something really profound about being human. So much of our suffering comes from holding on, not because we're doing something wrong, but because we care. We care, and so we hold tightly because we want certainty. We want to protect the people that we love. We want life to unfold the way we've imagined it. And attachment often can look like control. One of the things that I learned through, Buddhist practices and so on is that attachment doesn't always look like clinging, but sometimes it looks like control. It sounds like I just want this to work out, or I just want them to be okay, or I just want this relationship to stay the way it is. Those desires, totally human, completely deeply human, but when we grip too tightly, we often create the suffering, right? The very suffering that we're trying to avoid. We create more anxiety, more worry, more fear because we're trying to control something that was never ours to control. So, something I've been practicing is not letting go of love, but loosening my grip. So, there is a difference. Loosening my grip means trusting, it means allowing the people I love to grow, to make mistakes, to become who they are becoming. And it means recognizing that my role in a relationship can change without the love changing. And surprisingly, the more I soften, the more peaceful I become. And the relationship has room to become what it's meant to become instead of what I think it should be. So this week, I'd invite you to ask yourself just one question. And the question being, what am I holding on to tightly right now? Right? Maybe it's a relationship, an expectation, a version of yourself, a plan, an outcome. Just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't evaluate it. And then ask yourself, what would it feel like to loosen my grip just a little bit? Not because you care less, but because sometimes loving well means allowing life to unfold instead of trying to control every part of it. One of, the beautiful and difficult parts of being human, I think, is that life keeps changing and relationships change and families change and we change. And so the invitation isn't to stop loving, it's to love in a way that leaves room for growth, to hold with open hands instead of clenched fists. And because sometimes the greatest act of love isn't actually holding tighter, it's trusting enough to loosen your grip and to open. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Just let me know, what season of life are you finding it hardest to let go of right now? And if you'd like to learn more about mindful communication and bringing it into your relationships, I will link my books, audio courses, and my community and intentional communication training program below. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe for weekly conversations on mindful communication, relationships, and living with greater intention, and share with someone who you might think would benefit. So thank you so much for being here. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of one another.